Hi, so I've been asked a couple of times actually to look at the Bedini SSG, the Simple Schoolgirl motor, and I thought I would do because it's actually kind of interesting. But immediately you look at this kind of thing and it is a voltage boost oscillator. That's what it basically is. And of course we know another voltage boost oscillator which is really famous, and that's the Joule Thief. Now the Joule Thief, I think, sort of started its life about 1999 from Practical Everyday Electronics. It was some guy, Zaparnik I think his name was, who published this article. And it caught everybody's imagination, and there's just a ton of videos about Joule thieves and how to make them, and loads of replications. Now I like to go back to the basics of things, to get the building blocks of what it actually is, and then build something from those building blocks. To my mind, it means you understand them better. Now the Joule Thief, like I say, came out then, but it has a history, like all of these things have a history. Now the first patent I could find was a 1930s patent for a self-oscillating voltage boost converter based on vacuum tubes. There's actually a really interesting one, and I noted it down because it was so interesting. It's a very low voltage version of it, which was US patent number 473465-8. That's supposed to go down below a Joule Thief, and it was invented for thermoelectric applications. Probably well worth looking at that. I probably will at some stage or other, because you can use that at even lower voltages than you can use the Joule Thief. Now the Joule Thief, like I say, is just a self-oscillating voltage converter, and you see those actually in flash cameras. Remember the old flash camera you used to get, the disposable ones? They have a voltage boost, self-oscillating voltage boost converter right there in the button where you press for the flash. Now, the way they work is to use a couple of coils around a core. Use one of the coils to activate a transistor, and hard on, hard off, and it collapses the secondary coil, creating a high voltage spike. Now, it does it at quite a high frequency. So because it's quite a high frequency, it's better to use a ferrite core, because ferrite cores are meant for high frequency when you're building something like this. Now traditionally what they use is a toroid, but I don't think it really matters. I think you can use anything at all. Now I've got a ferrite rod here that I got from an antenna, a radio, so that's one of the things that I'm going to try. But equally, it shouldn't really matter that much. As long as you've got a core that's going to carry that, it should perform to some degree. This will probably make it perform better, but I've also got some steel laminations that I pulled from a microwave oven transformer, and I'm going to use that because that should work as well. Perhaps not as efficiently as that, but it should work as well. Now I've got a commercial version here, and I'm going to give you a close-up of that commercial version. So here's the little thing that I actually bought, and you can see it's a lovely little board, and in and out. There's my Bifire toroid right there, so that's the thing that's going to create the oscillation. So, and here we have the little hard-on, hard-off transistor. They tend to be things like a 2N2222. Not sure if that's too many or enough twos, but it's quite a lot. And a little resistor there. Now the circuit actually looks like this. Diode that you saw there in D1 is what Zaparnik actually did. He replaced that diode with an LED, and suddenly it will light. Now that is what we're going to create, because functionally each of these components perform a job, and we should be able to replace those components with other components that do the same functional job, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use those two. Now we don't have to go too bananas about it. 20 to 100 turns is going to be more than enough to be able to do this. You can see there it's got about 20 turns on it. Now the wire size is not really going to matter that much, to be honest. The thicker the wire, the lower the resistance, the thicker it is, the less turns you can get on for a fixed volume, so the lower the magnetic field is you're going to create. So some kind of balance is going to be good enough between those. Anyway, let's wind these. So making Bifire coils actually on a straight rod is an absolute piece of cake. I have wound toroids and they're a bit of a pain. But all I do actually is just measure out roughly 3 meters of this stuff. Fold it in half. Any more than about 3 meters, it gets so tangled you can't control it. Now I've taken the metal core, this laminated metal core, put a bit of plastic tape around it just to protect the wire from chafing, and then all you do is wind it until you've wound yourself a bifilar coil. Then snip that end and you'll have 2 coils. So there's our little Joule thief wired up on this ferrite rod, and if I collect the negative, ta-da! The little 3-volt LED lights up off a 1.5-volt battery. Interesting thing about these actually, because the polarity of this does matter, which you can get from the circuit diagram with the dots. The dots indicate polarity. But when you wind a coil where you do 2 wires like that, then the same ends of the coil are actually the same polarity. So both of these would be dotted, and in that one you connect that one to that one. Really easy to remember as long as you remember the polarity is the same on a bifilar wound coil at the end of the coil as you wind it. So really easy. Anyway, there's the ferrite rod one working. Fantastic. And we did a random number of turns, and it's not on a toroid, and it works as you would expect it to work. I mean, it's perhaps not the most efficient, we don't really know, but it certainly works. And here's exactly the same Joule thief, only this time I've removed the ferrite core and I've replaced it by the laminated steel core, which is right there. And if I connect the battery, ta-da! The LED lights up. Okay, so the moral of this story really is that it really doesn't matter that much. Lots of these things don't matter that much. I mean, sure, that's unlikely to be the most efficient Joule thief that you could make. And we know that from the patents, okay? Different selections of transistors can have different effects and so on and so on. But in logical terms, you should be able to reproduce something with hardly any constraints at all. I mean, we used 2 widely different, actually, materials to make the core. Both worked. We made no effort to select the wire. We made no effort particularly. I just put 3 meters on there. And it works, as it should do. These things in their logic should work however rough the implementation. I mean, if you want to make an electric motor, it's a stunningly simple thing to do. And if you look at Faraday's first electric motor, it was brutal. I mean, it was a bit of wire and some mercury that span around. You should be able to get the logic implemented in lots and lots of different ways. If you can't, the chances are it's a load of rubbish. If you can, the chances are you're onto something. So these voltage spike oscillators, because that's exactly what it is, it self-oscillates. When the field collapses, it induces an EMF which is a higher voltage, obviously a lower current, but a higher voltage. And that's why we're able to drive this 3.2 volt LED from a 1.5 volt battery supply, because that voltage in there is spiking high as the field collapses. Because it's self-oscillating, of course, that frequency is actually quite high. That's why the ferrite's better, actually, than the steel. But it still should work with steel, and of course it does work with steel. And we've probably put a nail in there and still get it to work. So number of turns, anywhere between 20 and 100. Thickness of wire, whatever you've got. Core material, anything that you can use as a solenoid, and you should be able to get that thing to work. The really difficult thing actually is remembering the polarity. But like I say, the polarity of a bifilar coil like this is the 2 ends are the same polarity. And so you wire it up according to that dot convention. Anyway, I thought I'd share those thoughts with you and build a couple of quick and easy Joule thieves, and hopefully you'll find Joule thief building to be an awful lot easier than it has been. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.